Coach's Corner is presented by Roanoke Valley Harley-Davidson. Stop by their store on Peters Creek Road for new and used motorcycles, service and repair, along with Harley-Davidson clothing and collectibles.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Coach's Corner. I'm Mitch Stewart, and this morning I'm joined by Dawgs head coach Dan Bremner. Dan, great to be back. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, finally back.
I know, it's moving quickly here into this next season. It feels like it was just yesterday we were talking at the end of last season. I want to kind of go back to the start of this offseason. You guys had so much success last year, your best regular season in franchise history. You're a period away from a third straight appearance in the President's Cup final. I'm curious to hear, when you were doing some of your review during this offseason, and you know you had so many components to a good team already, were there any traits, anything that you were looking for throughout this offseason in your recruiting that you were trying to bring into the team this fall?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely there's success, regular season success, but, you know, that's not what we're after, and that's not what anybody in competitive sports are after. You know, it's the postseason that matters. We scored the most goals we've ever scored. We scored the most goals across the league during last year's season. But I felt like we were too much of an outside team. We talked about it most of the offseason, me and DeVito, quite a bit about, you know, making sure that we're working towards becoming a bit of a tougher team, going to the net, scoring more greasy goals. You know, we were a team last year that just seemed able to turn it on and win games, and obviously that. I think it was great for the crowds. They got to see a ton of comeback wins, a ton of overtime wins. But we put ourselves in a hole constantly, and we were late to turn it on. We wouldn't show up for a period at a time, and then we would rely on that talent to kind of overcome the opponent and come out on top. And when you do that consistently, it doesn't scare you anymore being down. You don't have that urgency, and that showed, you know, down the stretch and into playoffs that we just didn't have that really kill mode in our toolkit, and you know, I think that's really why we fell short.
Year over year, rosters changed so much throughout the SPHL. You guys have been really fortunate over the last few years where you've had a really large and strong core group of players that you've kind of brought with you year over year. A couple of big names missing from last season, but you guys still have a lot of that returning experience, a lot of that returning leadership on this team. How much of an impact does that make for you all, especially in these first few days, these first couple of weeks, when you have all the newcomers coming in, trying to integrate those players into the team?
Yeah, you know, it's always awesome having a good core and a good group. As far as guys returning, and like, you know, with last year it was a ton. We were so close the year before, and we had a lot of guys that just wanted to be back for some redemption the following year, and you could see it there. It was a very driven group when it comes to. You know, last year still had a big group coming back after a championship, and you know, I think, you know, always a learning curve for myself too, and always trying to learn in the game and in the coaching side of things. But I think with that big group, it gave me that safety net feeling too. That, you know, I always knew we were going to come out on top of those close games. I knew that when they were pushed, they were going to go, and you know, again, it added to that mentality of kind of like not showing up for a period at a time. And although we have returners this year, it's been a different tone. It's just been a different attitude towards that, and recognizing our mistakes, me recognizing my mistakes in how they need to be pushed, and how, you know, there's no time for period off, shift off. And I think it's felt from the guys returning, and the urgency on that is felt with these new guys too.
It's commonplace every single fall when you get into these training camps. You may have some players signed or some players that you expect to be in the fold that get ECHL training camp invites. And of course, I know that you always try to push them to go as far as they want with their career. But what do you think that experience does for the guys that do end up coming back, whether it's before opening night or maybe a couple months into the season, to get that little bit of time in a different system, in a different team, and maybe get to see a different level of competition?
Yeah, it's always good. When guys tell me that they may have an ECHL opportunity for camp, I'm always telling them, you know, I think taking it regardless. You're getting on the ice a little bit earlier than we would start anyways, and you're playing against a high competition. So it's always good for them. On the other side of it, it's awesome too when, you know, we have a really great thing here, and the players are treated so well, and the community's so behind this team that, you know, a guy like Billy Roche, as soon as the decision was made there in Worcester, that he was on the phone, and you could hear the excitement in him getting in his car, and he's like, I'm pumped to be back. I'm pumped to be with the boys back to his home, is what he called it. And you know, it's a good feeling to know that we've built that kind of culture here where, you know, obviously we're all striving to climb and be the best. But when you know you have a great place to be and you're looking forward to it, that kind of energy is contagious.
These couple of weeks, the roster can be very, very fluid from day to day, even from morning to afternoon with these 2-a-day sessions. We're not going to go through and break down the entire roster right now. We might be here for a long time, but I'm curious to hear maybe one returner and one newcomer that you feel like early on in training camp have maybe stood out to you a little bit, and what are your takeaways from them?
Returners right away, I'll go two of them, Nick Ford and Matty O'Day. You can see a renewed dedication to it right now, and they're both guys that know that for different reasons we fell short last year, and they have a different level of urgency in what they're doing right now. Both of them look fantastic out there as far as their leadership and volume out there, but also just dominating the play. They're as close as they could be to mid-season form already. As far as new guys, we right now we have a bit of a hit, and as far as the back end, we got a lot of good D that we liked a lot over the last couple of years that are in ECHL camps, and we're wishing them the best, including defenseman of the year, Brendan Pepe, but our Philip, our new defenseman that we picked up over the off season, is showing sparks of being very solid, and we're looking forward to his creativity on the offensive side that we weren't expected, but he's a big body too, and likes to use it. So excited to see what he's going to bring there on the back end.
You got a bunch of training camps under your belt, both as a player and a coach. You had to kind of give it like a 1 through 10 score where you're at right now. I know you're not satisfied, it's so early on, but how do you feel like the team has kind of come along through these first few days, through this first week or so, and progressed in learning the systems and also just on the ice, the effort?
Yeah, so honestly, we haven't even got into systems at all. We got enough returners that's going to be pretty quick to push them on. We just kind of started touching on it a bit today. The compete's been good as far as how we've come along. Honestly, compared to last year or other years, put me right in the middle out of 5. But it makes me happy with that because again, with so many returners last year, it was the sharpest camp I've ever seen. I remember coming in here in the office with the coaches afterwards, and we're just like, oh my God, like the systems are dialed, the touch from everybody was mid-season form, and again, I think that helped us slide into that kind of bit of comfort. And that's kind of what the problem was last year across the board. Players, coaches, everybody fell into a little bit of that comfort, and right now we see work that needs to be done, and I think we have a group right now which gets me excited that so far is showing that they enjoy the work, and we want to be guys that are loving the grind this year.
Well, awesome, Dan. Thank you so much for your time, and best of luck here in this next week or so as we get ready for the season.
Thanks, Mitch.
That's going to do it for today's episode of Coach's Corner. Opening night right here at Berglund Center on Friday, October 18th. The Fayetteville Marksmen come to town. That game is sponsored by Haley Toyota and K92. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day.